Welcome to Uncharted Entrepreneurship, the show that brings you stories of trailblazing entrepreneurs. Get inside access to the minds of founders, partners, and visionaries. See how they find opportunity in challenges and take bold risks. They think big, act boldly, and make a real difference. Learn how they're shaping the future and making the world a better place. Get inspired to take action, believe in yourself, and ignite your own journey. Make your mark. Sponsored by EO Minnesota. Uncharted Entrepreneurship is a production of Content Basis, LLC. Copyright 2024. Subscribe and download today wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome to this episode. Today I have Bryce Henson. He is the CEO and founder of Fit Body Bootcamp. Bryce, go ahead, do an introduction for yourself. Tell us your day-to-day role and one of your passions in life.
Ooh, love it. Well, my passion definitely is fitness. I love being active. In fact, my leadership framework is lead yourself, lead your family, lead your empire. And fitness is, from my perspective, one of the highest forms of self-leadership. So for me, that's a huge passion and hobby of mine. Brent, as you so indicated, thank you first and foremost for having me on the show. I'm the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp, which is the fastest growing indoor fitness franchise bootcamp on the planet. We have a few hundred locations in North America, about 90% in the States, about 10% in Canada. We specialize in 30-minute high-intensity circuit training sessions where we produce twice the workout, twice the results in half the time, and we're known as the place where our clients will lose the weight for the last time. So that's a little bit about, me and my big passion to really spread health and fitness to the world.
Yeah, in the green room, we did talk about the importance of not just getting focused on one thing. And a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, focus almost 100% or let's say 110% of their effort in working in their business or on their business. And I am a big believer in getting people to move, right? Any way you can move. I think that's the number one step. Talk a little bit about that passion you have to get people to do more than just sit at a desk and type at a computer.
Yeah. Well, that's the value of a coach, I believe, is really, a coach, cares for their clients, really has their best interest at heart, and really can help that client do one more rep, one more set, one more life experience, one more, outbound sales call from a phone or from a business perspective. So that's the power of the coach, getting a little bit more out of you than you can get out of yourself. So I always like to start there. And in the green, we were talking a little bit about work-life balance. I like the word integration more than anything. And really what that does is it allows the entrepreneur to really focus on their passions in life. And I shared with you, I run an international fitness organization. And during, my normal workday, I'm, taking meetings, I'm, doing podcasts like this, I'm, giving speeches and whatnot. That's just the normal day to day. But my service or my product and service is fitness. So I'm very, very passionate about that. I have that as part of my daily routine. So that's really, really important to integrate in my life. So I look at, business and life as just this integrated puzzle, if you will. And, I think the secret sauce is if you can find something that you're truly passionate about and then go all in on that, you will find yourself not having a divided life where this is work and this is, play. It can be, part of the same puzzle, if you will.
Why do you think there are so many leaders that are also engrossed in some sort of being fit or, I meet a lot of people that are endurance athletes. They do Ironman and they might do ultra marathons, and they seem to have this sort of drive that brings them past, again, just sitting at their desk. Is there something innate in an entrepreneur to sort of push themselves as well as their business?
Absolutely. And I think for me, fitness, I'll hit this one more time, is the foundation for all aspects of life. It's certainly the foundation for your fitness, but it's also the foundation for more mental clarity, more energy, more enthusiasm. So what I found for myself back in 2005, when I moved from the Midwest to Los Angeles, California, I had more dark days than good. And the reason that is I wasn't fit. I wasn't active. I was 3,000 miles from home, not a lot of professional skills, not a lot of friend network in Los Angeles coming from Michigan. But shortly thereafter, a fortuitous situation happened where I was introduced, or actually one of my best friends from college moved out west, and he was my first fitness mentor. And he put me on a 12-week program, which turned to be coaching for about 2 years. I dropped 20 pounds of body fat. I put 20 pounds of lean muscle. I did all the things from a physical perspective that really, really changed my life. But while that was really important, today, 20 plus years or 20 years later, nearly, I'm still active in the fitness game, not necessarily because the aesthetic look, and that's important. I mean, everyone likes to look good and feel good, but really for me, it's the mental output. So when I'm working with business leaders and CEOs, what I find is it doesn't have to, there's no one size fits all. It doesn't have to be one specific regimen, but some sort of physical practice, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's doing CrossFit, whether it's swimming, whether it's running. I'm an avid runner. I know you're an avid marathon runner. I've gotten 2 under my belt, but all this to say, I strongly believe that the fitness game really increases mental clarity and increases output, both from a fitness level, but also from a business and life perspective as well.
Yeah, you on your website, you have mastered the 3 counterintuitive principles of leadership. Tell us a little bit about what those are and why are they counterintuitive?
Yeah, well, I'm a good marketer as well, or at least I like to think so. It's a nice, sexy hook. But a few of the 3 principles I'm referring to. Number 1 is produce more than you consume and invest the difference. And if you want to be successful as a leader, as an entrepreneur, or if you're listening to this and one day you want to start a business, but you're an entry level person, that's okay too. This framework applies to, every situation in your life. If you can be known as someone who adds value, who produces more than they're consuming or dragging on the organization, you will by definition be noticed. You will be seen as a value adder, and your leadership will improve, and your output and your value to the economy will improve as well. So I always like to start there. The second principle is being proactive versus reactive. And we know this to be true in sports, in business. The more proactive you are, it doesn't guarantee success, but what it does is it increases the probability for success. The opposite is also true. Those people that really have a hard time leading themselves, being change makers in their communities or their organizations, are the one who take the wait and see approach. And if you want to be successful, you have to avoid that like the plague. And the last thing that I learned from a sports background in terms of leadership is the law of momentum. And if you've ever watched, Brett, obviously you've watched many sports games in your life, I'm sure, but if your audience are listening to this and you've watched a sports game, that there's something true about momentum. It's actually grounded in physics, first and foremost. But I think Sir Isaac Newton brought to the table a body in motion stays in motion, a body in rest stays at rest. So watching that sports game, you can really see when a team just kind of catches a streak and they get a little bit of energy, a little bit of momentum on their side. And that's a very real thing in sports. And it's also a very real thing in business and leadership as well. So if you can, create daily habits and rituals, if you will, we'll go back to the fitness thing, because that's a huge, huge aspect of my life and my success. When I get up every morning, sub 5 o'clock, I get my workout, I get my cold plunge. I'm sitting at my desk by 6:30 a.m. ready to attack the day. I've already stacked some wins. I already have momentum by my side to go ahead and dominate the day. So that would be the third law on whether you want to be a strong leader or just be successful in life. So if you can, in summation, produce more than you consume, invest the difference, you can be proactive over reactive, and then you can create momentum in your life. You'll definitely be successful.
Yeah, I'm going to break that down a little bit. I want to go backwards. Let's start with the third one. And I think being part of that is if you can apply to planning. In my previous company, we did a lot of agency work, so we had to do projects, and in that we had to do planning, and we had to see that project through, right? And I always apply that to the training going up to a marathon. And my son and I he's going to run his first marathon this year.
Oh,
so
congrats.
We've been training together, and that you have to first come up with this plan. Then you have to see it through. You have to get it day by day, week over week, month over month to make sure you're going to hit that goal, right? And I always tell people you can run a marathon without training. You're just going to feel really, really bad during and after that race, right?
Right.
So how does that, that third part, I see that applying in business. And I think a lot of people have a hard time making that connection between the two?
In terms of, just to clarify the question, taking the framework of being proactive and applying that to business, correct?
Yes.
I think it just shows up everywhere. And the more, especially if you're a leader and a change maker in an organization, really leadership from my definition is influence. If you can influence others, therefore you can be a leader. And what I know to be true about leadership in business is the separation is in the preparation. The more you prepare in the front end, the more knowledgeable you're going to be, in any given conversation. And the more knowledgeable you are, the more you're going to be able to influence yourself and others in that particular meeting. So, Brent, even, you and I, when we're connecting, not only in the green room, but yesterday, you shot me a couple bullet points on things that we're going to talk about. I took some time to kind of, do a little bit of research on this particular call. I want to be prepared. You did the same thing. It's going to create a better outcome specific to this podcast, but you can use that framework in any board meeting or any quarterly, leadership meeting. You can apply that to all aspects of your business.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned earlier just getting in the sales calls and being proactive about what you know about your client, about having that discipline to make sure you're doing your homework before you even get on that. How does that? I know that a lot of what you're doing is both around coaching physically, but you're coaching mentally too, right?
Oh, 100%. And going back to even my story, I first got into fitness because the physical elements of it, but really it's a mindset thing. And what I've learned to be true about coaching fitness clients, because our brand Fit Body Bootcamp serves over 60,000, clients throughout North America, way more than we can get their body to change. We have to get their mindset and their habits to change. And we do that through a stepladder approach, but it's a mindset game for sure. And also to applying that to the business aspect as well, because Fit Body Bootcamp, we decided to franchise our system back in 2012. So we have global fitness clients, but we also have franchise partners who are coming into our program because they want a business that's going to create impact and income for their communities. And going back to the business, yes, you need to learn the sales, the marketing, the operations, the HR, but Brent, it's a mindset game first and foremost. So a lot of the coaching that I do, my leadership team does, whether business or fitness, all starts with mindset first.
You mentioned community there, and I'm big on community building. Tell us a little bit about how you help contribute to communities and how the Fit Body Bootcamp helps build a community.
Yeah, well, I think our secret sauce is a community-based program. So what I'd like to say is, for clients coming into our program, we provide twice the workout, twice the results for a fraction of the cost and time as well. And the way we can do that is through group coaching. So instead of hiring a personal trainer one-on-one, spending $1,000 a month, we can do that in a group setting, which number one is more affordable, but number two, it actually gets a better result because, let's face it, human nature, we are tribal beings. We need each other. That's a competitive advantage that has helped our evolution for a very long time. So from a business model perspective, if you can provide a great result for a fraction of the price and you can create community in the process, what happens is people come for the result, but they stay for the community because we need this as humans. It is definitely a primal need of ours.
Some of my experience with coaching has been, and I've hired lots of running coaches. Sometimes the coach doesn't take the time to get to know you, and I'm an older person. So I've had coaches that gave me 80 miles a week of running, and the result has been injury. How important is it that, as in the Fit Body Bootcamp, that you get to know the person you're coaching so you don't run them ragged or do something? And I can think about lifting weights. Like I hate when that first weekend you're all sore and you're like, I don't want to do it. It's, the same thing can apply to training for a 5K. Tell us a little bit about how that works in terms of getting to know your client.
Yeah, well, relationships are everything. And that's actually the first step in order to be able to coach or guide a client, first and foremost, is to be able to develop a relationship with them because you'll have more institutional knowledge of where that client's at, where their capabilities, where their limitations are. So just from a knowledge and guidance perspective, first and foremost, developing and establishing a long-term relationship is fundamental to your success. But secondarily, the essence of a coach, and we talked about this earlier in the conversation, the true beauty and the power of a coach is to get one more rep, one more set out of your client. And what I know to be true, Brett, over in being in this industry for over 15 years, is when you develop a relationship, a deep relationship, then you have more influence with that client, and you can give them the same instruction. That literally you can have two coaches give the same exact instruction or guidance, but the coach that develops more time investing in that relationship will get one more set, one more rep, and ultimately a little bit more out of their client than the person or than the coach who just specifically provides the guidance without the relationship.
Tell us a little bit about how you connect your fitness coaching with your business coaching.
Ooh. Well, there's many parallels, I would say, for sure, just because it's grounded in human nature. And really, when you look at coaching, you have to understand human nature. And really what coaching is adjusting or modifying human behavior. You're trying to get your client to take some sort of action different than they would take if they were, by themselves. So I think if you understand that principle, that as a coach, you're affecting human human change and behavioral change, that's actually at the fundamental level. And when you understand that, then it can apply to fitness. It can apply to business. For us here at Fit Body Bootcamp, we have the opportunity and also the challenge globally to service, fitness clients. But the way we do that is we recruit franchise partners who are more business minded, who want to run their businesses to open their own locations in their communities, and then attract fitness clients who need coaching as well. So it's interesting, I guess, business model that we have, and franchising, I guess in general, I've described the industry. But that all in mind, the technical aspects of fitness and business are very, very different. But going back to the human nature element, when you break it down, it's about, can you connect with your client? Can you develop a relationship with your client? And can you provide them guidance that's going to enable them to take action and get a result that they wouldn't do by themselves?
We talked a little bit about some of the things that you help people understand, and one of the things I'm passionate about is EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, and I know it's on your profile. Tell us a little bit about how you help your clients with that. I'm assuming you're not an EOS implementer, but you coach people on that.
That's correct. We actually have an implementer that we've hired at our headquarters to implement EOS throughout our headquarters, our company here. And then from there, our same implementer creates training, support, and access to be able to help coach our franchise partners on the EOS system. And when you shared that yesterday, previously to this particular call, I lit up because EOS has been an absolute game changer, from being able to cast vision to be able to create accountability in an organization, and just be able to create more success and guidance. And it's specifically focused more on the business coaching of our organization. We don't implement EOS from our franchise partners down to our fitness clients. We do that from our headquarters to our franchise partners on the business level. But I can just tell you, without EOS, and we implemented it professionally in 2019, about a year before the pandemic struck. And I can say the result of the pandemic would have been less favorable for our brick and mortar if we hadn't taken the priority and the big action to implement EOS previous to that.
Yeah, I know that we implemented it in my previous company in 2017, and running up to the pandemic, there was such a different world, and I think that having that framework in place, especially the meeting framework, the L10 meeting and things like that, having those things in place in advance and not having to pivot and think about, how should we do this now, or things like that. That's important. Tell us a little bit about the scorecard items. Do you apply some of those scorecard items to your both fitness clients and business clients?
We haven't executed the scorecard specific to our fitness clients, but with our business clients, it's the game changer. In fact, we cannot coach a franchise partner if they don't be able to provide their scorecard. Because think about that, how challenging it would be if you're a business coach and a business owner comes to you and says, hey, this is my business. but I have some problems, but you have a hard time of actually dissecting the problems. It's kind of like going to a surgeon and the surgeon not being able to do a CAT scan or MRI. That would just be very, very challenging to do. So the scorecard, first and foremost, for the business owner, I mean, this is their metric. This is their lever to know where they're doing well and then where they're not doing well, using the analogy of you would never get in your car and start driving without a fuel gauge to give you perspective on how much fuel you have or you don't have. It's just a very, very valuable metric when you're driving down the road. Same with you running a business. And then taking that one step further, when you're doing business coaching, like we do at Fit Body Bootcamp for our franchise partners, the scorecard is a snapshot, if you will, with all the key metrics that any of our business coaches need to quickly assess where the business is at, and then also too, where they're strong and then where their areas they need to focus more attention on. And really that scorecard gives the insight where that franchise business partner or the coach needs to dive in and really support that franchise partner specifically in their areas of need.
Part of it, or not, the way I got introduced to EOS was through Entrepreneurs Organization, and I'm part of EO Minnesota. There's, I think, 3 chapters in LA alone. One of the things that I enjoyed when I first joined EO was the fact that you just didn't get conceptual things out of a meeting or out of a forum meeting. You got actionable things. And I know one thing you talked about is the 5 easy steps to take today to increase your leadership expertise. Give us, you don't have to give us all 5, but what are some of those easy steps that people can take today to start increasing how well they are, how good of a leader they are?
First and foremost, it's about self-mastery and it's about discipline. Think about yourself. If you're looking up, like close your eyes. If you're looking out to a leader that you really admire and that you really look up to, write down some qualities of that leader. And I think what you'll find is there's probably some qualities that you emulate, but there's also some qualities that you need to level up. And self-mastery, leading yourself first and foremost, is the best way to do that from a leadership framework. So that's one easy action step, is to take inventory, figure out what you do well as a person, what opportunities you have to improve, and then through discipline, improve yourself. And that, if that means you need to get a little bit more dialed in with your nutrition, or you need to start working out, or you need to be a better communicator, you need to be a better presenter. Just take an inventory of all those other leaders that you look up to and the skills they acquire, and then focus on, leveling up your skill set. The second thing that I find very, very impactful in terms of, self-leadership is you have to understand that amateurs, and I've been an amateur before, Bryce 1.0, it was really how I felt. If I felt good that day, then I was going to execute things. If I didn't feel that good that day, you know what? I'm going to wait till tomorrow. What I realized is if you really want to make big change and have a very successful career in the leadership game, you have to prioritize your standards over feelings, which is extremely important. And the last thing that I think, kind of constitutes this, and, it applies to both initial frameworks that I just mentioned as well. But what are your vices? What are the areas that you really need to level up? Not necessarily just skills that you need to acquire, but things that are actually hurting you and hampering you. And for me, this is not something I'm very proud to admit, but it's the truth. And there's a big learning lesson, but I'm a recovering alcoholic. And what I learned and realized back in 2016, when I was doing an inventory of myself, I realized that my relationship with alcohol, while it was very different than I thought a traditional alcoholic who, drank every day and didn't have a job and was homeless, et cetera, which there's many alcoholics in that particular capacity, but I was more on the very highly functioning alcoholic. However, that still caused a really, really big issue in my life and my professional perspective, and also my ability to lead. So by, taking that inventory and not only assessing what skill sets I need to acquire, but what things do I need to remove? What vices do I need to stop from my life? That has been an absolute game changer, and things that I always recommend business entrepreneurs and leaders to take inventory for themselves.
That's such an important lesson. I practice Lent every year, and I always give up tortilla chips and beer, and I always lose a little bit of weight. And I know that's probably a little selfish, but yeah, one of my vices is definitely tortilla chips. And I saw something that said if you have 4 tortilla chips, it's the same thing as having 1 regular tortilla, and so a ton of calories just in 4 chips.
I believe it.
Yeah. um, One of the things that you have in your bio here is leadership is a capitalist environment. Tell us about that.
Well, I love leadership. It really is about influence and it's about incentive. And I think leadership at first, it's very selfish because there's a famous analogy in leadership. You need to put the oxygen mask on first. You are useless to the people around you if there's cabin pressure loss and there's a loss of oxygen if you don't take care of yourself first. However, while leadership starts selfless or selfish, it ends selfless. And I think that's really, really important to understand. And I believe capitalism is the same way. Interestingly, sometimes, and I think in present day, in probably younger generations, but for whatever reason, capitalism has gotten a bad name. But I love about capitalism, you have to add value to others first in order to get a reward, and it's grounded in incentive. For me, I think there's a lot of parallels in leadership, in incentive, in capitalism, in serving others, and that's really my framework that I follow.
One thing that I've heard a lot about is our economy, and there's so many different opinions. That the economy seems to be swayed on personal your personal thought about it, maybe not about numbers. And so, in terms of capitalism, and I would put myself as a capitalist and a libertarian.
Ooh, me
Um,
too.
how do you react? I think the unemployment here is under 3% right now. It seems like it's so hard to get people to come and work. Uh, in Hawaii, it's even worse. I mean, I think that that you see restaurants that are half full because they don't have enough employees to fill the tables. Is there going to be a way that we can grow that human part of the economy to get more workers in? And is that just also a myth of not having enough workers?
Yeah, well, it's economy is a very complex thing, as we know, Brent. Very similar to you, I would actually, if I had to put myself in the box, I would consider myself a libertarian. Freedom is my core value for sure. So very, very strong free market capitalist. And what we've seen with the pandemic and the COVID relief, I mean, there's a lot of other factors at play that have really kind of thrown off, I think, their traditional economics. So from that perspective, I don't have all the answers, but what I do know to be true, and this is something that philosophy that I live myself by, but also teach my franchise partners and business coaches, is yes, there's certainly certain things that you can take action to better your lot in life. But a lot of things that what comes down to is, things within your control. So can you control your own economy? Can you control your own output? Can you control your own mindset? Can you control your own health and fitness? Can you control, the amount of reps and sets you put in a business meeting or an outbound sales, call perspective? So, to your point, there's a lot of moving factors, especially in today's day and age. The last 5 years has been a pretty wild ride for us all, I think it's fair to say. But when typically asked questions about, the economy, while I'm a huge free market capitalist and I'm a huge proponent of deregulation and really supporting business owners for, more growth and prosperity, I'm also the strong advocate of, having a what's in your control, taking inventory of what's within your control and taking 100% action within your control, and really the end game, controlling and creating your own economy.
All right, I want to finish this out today with how to create freedom through fitness, and I'm really interested in this topic, and I'm a firm believer is that you can be much more free in yourself through fitness. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I learned this quote from a mentor. I shouldn't necessarily from the far. I've had the opportunity to share a stage with him on 2 different occasions, but a gentleman named Jocko Willink. And he's a very famous author, New York Times bestselling author. He wrote the book Extreme Ownership. And in his book, there's a tagline that says, discipline equals freedom. And we just established the fact of, freedom is my core value. It dictates the way I think, the actions I take, who I vote for, what businesses I, execute. So for me, freedom is a huge, huge part of my life. And what I've learned to be true is on the other side of freedom is responsibility. And the best way to be responsible and to live a life worth living is to be disciplined. And if you are a highly disciplined person, if you keep the promises that you make to yourself, what happens is you gain more self-confidence, you gain more self-enthusiasm, you gain more self-trust, which is really what self-confidence is to me. It's just self-trust. When you make a promise, are you going to keep your promise? And do you have the confidence that you're going to be able to execute against that? And if you have a high level of discipline, then guess what? You are a free person. So for me, discipline, mindset, fitness, I mean, these are all fundamental building blocks to someone who lives a free life. So that's why, from a business perspective, I decided to lead an organization that serves fitness, throughout North America, because in my strong belief, when someone has a strong level of fitness in their life, that's the foundation. They have more authority over their body. They have more authority over their mind. They have more authority over their family and the community. So for me, discipline equals freedom. And that's really the essence of leadership.
Yeah, I'm going to just add on that you have to see yourself in success, and however that success is, and there's different levels of success. And I'll say I've started and finished 28 marathons now, and every single one of them, I never went in thinking, oh, if I'm tired at 13 miles, I'm just going to drop out. I know that, hey, if I'm tired at 20 miles, I can walk the last 6 and I can still make it, right? I think that both that, what you said earlier, but applying that as well as seeing yourself successful in the end is such, all those pieces put together help you to be a real successful, not only in athletics, but in business and in life in general.
Absolutely. That even goes back to the planning preparation. When you can envision yourself, completing the marathon or the business project or whatever that looks like, knowing there's going to be resistance, knowing there's going to be struggle, but planning and preparing for that and pushing through anyway. I mean, you can achieve a lot of success in a lot of varieties of life.
Bryce, before we close out, I did forget that we were going to do the free joke project earlier. I was passionate about your passion in the beginning. So I just want to tell you a joke. All you have to do is give me a rating 1 through 5 on this. So
I'll preface, I'm not a funny guy, but I'm going to do my best.
Oh, and this is going to apply to both of us. So here we go. I'd be a terrible superhero. I'd be at home and see the signal calling me, and I'd think, I literally just sat down.
I'll give you a 2. It just went over my head. That's the truth, Brett.
You see, as a superhero, you're supposed to jump up at that signal, go out. And I'm just thinking, geez, I just sat down. I don't want to get.
Copy.
Sorry, it's an irony joke. Bryce, in all seriousness, as I close out, I give everybody a chance to do a shameless plug about anything they'd like to plug. What would you like to plug today?
Well, thank you. Well, leadership is my forte. I love building teams and people and pouring into them. So I created a free leadership course. Would be happy to be able to provide that to your audience. Go to my site, brycehenson.com/leadership. That's brycehenson.com/leadership.
That's perfect. Bryce, it's been such a great conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Appreciate your time, my friend.
Uncharted Entrepreneurship is a production of Content Basis, LLC. Copyright 2023. You can find more award-winning content at contentbasis.io. And that wraps up the latest edition of Uncharted Entrepreneurship. Bold tales from entrepreneurial trailblazers. I'm your host, Brent Peterson, signing off after an incredible fireside chat with one of our intrepid trailblazing guests. Their firsthand perspective on conquering the unexplored wilds of business is just a taste of the rare wisdom you'll discover from pioneering entrepreneurs on this show. I also invite you to join me each week for insider commentary on the startup scene and digital marketing landscape on my Talk Commerce podcast. You can find Talk Commerce wherever you download podcasts or go to talk-commerce.com. I'd be grateful if you left a review and rating for Uncharted Entrepreneurship to help more bold founders find their way to game-changing insights that empower ventures to transform communities. This is your host, Brent Peterson, signing off for now. I'll see you around the virtual campfire next episode as we embark on another adventure into the great entrepreneurial unknown.